October felt like the fastest month ever, and I can't believe that it's already November, Scorpio season, my birthday month. I am so excited for this month. I have a lot of very exciting things going on this month. Ow! Arya's biting my foot. She's very playful right now. Most exciting thing is, so I'm filming this on Monday, and on Wednesday of this week when this is going up, I will be at the Harry Styles concert. Stay healthy for 3 more days, Harry. Manifesting this into the universe. This concert is like everything to me right now. So I will be at that this week, and then in a couple weeks I'm headed to Disney, which I'm just so excited for. I did do their college program there. I love Disney, and yeah, I'm very excited to be going as well. So that's not what we're here for today though. Let's wrap up everything that I read in October. It was a bit of a slower reading month for me. I didn't actually finish a book until like the last day of the first week of the month. Like, it was just slow. I was a little busier this month, and I honestly just wasn't like in the mood to be reading all the time. I was watching a lot of Scandal. Like, I've been rewatching that show because it's one of my favorites, and I don't force myself to read when I don't want to read. So I didn't read as many books. I think I maybe read 13, maybe 12 books this month. So let's just jump in and wrap them up. Actually, first off, there were 2 that I didn't get to last month to wrap up because I had to film the video a little earlier, but I had finished them. And the first one was The Stopover by T.L. Swan. I finished it at the end of September last month. I gave this 3 stars, and I feel like that was generous of me. No, I hate when I don't like a really hyped book that everyone else loves, but I did not really like this that much. I love Mr. Masters, and that was the other T.L. Swan book that I've read before, and I really enjoyed that one. However, this one just like completely missed the mark for me. I don't even remember their names, and I didn't look them up, but it follows these 2 people, and they meet on a flight, and then their flight is like in the air, and then they have to redirect their flight to like Boston or something. They were flying to New York, and then these 2 people get off and they spend the night in the hotel together, really hot, fun time, and then in the morning they part ways. And then like a year later, the woman starts working at this new company in New York, and when she shows up on the first day and she meets the boss, is his name Jameson? I think that might be it. And when she meets him, he is the CEO of this huge company, like him and his 4 brothers, and it's like a whole series. Okay, first of all, people, I just feel like I should preface this. The more that I'm told to read something, the less likely I am to read it. And I've had so many people after I posted this review on Instagram DM me and be like, the next books are so much better, like jump into those. Potentially. It's never out of the question. I'm not gonna say no, I will never revisit them, but also the more I'm told to read something, the less likely I'm to do it, so I'm not touching those right now. I'm not in the mood for them. I only read things I'm in the mood for. So then she's like a writer, and then they find out that there's like a mole in their office, and she's like trying to uncover it with him, and they're like having a relationship. This was the most toxic relationship, but in the most annoying way. Like, it wasn't fun toxicity. I love fun toxic relationships in books, but this was just so annoying. They fought in like every single scene that they were in. I'm like, literally, why do you like each other? I felt like they didn't like each other anywhere past the point that it's just like they found out that the other one was hot, like that they found each other attractive. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but it doesn't make it very fun to read about when all they want to do is like bone each other and fight. Like, I don't know. It was so annoying to me. I didn't like the plot. I hated both of the characters. Like, neither of the characters I liked. And overall, I feel like 3 stars was generous for this book. I didn't like it, and I'm so sorry to anyone who does. Not every book is going to be for everyone, and this one was just not for me. So, and then the other book that I finished at the tail end of last month, which I'm going to lump in with these other 2, is I finished Crown of Midnight at the end of September, and then I also read Air, Fire, and Queen of Shadows this month. So these are books 2, 3, and 4 in the Throne of Glass series. These are all rereads for me. I read these all last year. One of my all-time favorite series, and I've just been rereading them because they're, I don't know, I've been in the mood for fantasy. Can't really explain too much what these are about because I feel like, especially when we get into like these, I don't want to spoil anything from these earlier books, but they are YA fantasy books. I'd say like, are they? I feel like Empire of Storms is where it gets more new adult level. I'd say like the first 2 books are really YA, and then maybe starting out like here, they're turning a little more new adult. I truly love these books. This one I gave 4 stars the first time I read it. I kept with that rating. I love Kale, so I love this book for him, even though things happen. And then Heir of Fire rereading. The first time I read this, rated it 5 stars. I'm keeping my rating at 5 stars. This one definitely I appreciated so much more the second time around reading it, because for one, I knew the direction of certain characters because I was very attached to a certain couple the first time I read it. And then the second time I'm like, oh, then I knew how things played out and I was like, it's for the best. So this one I loved. I just love a broken character finding their way back to their strength and their power and their happiness. It's just a really deep dive into this main character's mental health, which I just love. So I really love this one. I appreciate all the new characters that I get introduced. And also I really appreciated Manon's chapters more this time around too. Because at first, when I first read this, I was like, I don't care about this character. I don't know who they are. And now reading it back, I'm like, oh, baby Manon, I love you. Queen of Shadows. I gave this one 5 stars on the first time around. I still give it 5 stars. I still think that this is my 3rd favorite because I don't foresee it surpassing Empire of Storms or Kingdom of Ash when I reread both of those. But this one is my 3rd favorite, I'm pretty safe to say. I just think this is like a pretty perfect book in my opinion. None of the chapter like POVs are boring. Like you never get to a certain character and you're like, ugh, I don't feel like spending time with them. Like every single chapter with the characters is worthwhile. I love the converging and like the reunions of different characters that we get to see now all starting to interact that have never interacted before. I love being back in a Darlin. Like there are so many things about this book, and Aelin and Manon's fight in this is one of my favorite scenes. I mean, as you can see, I don't normally tab books at all. Actually, I don't tab books really at all. But as I've been going back and rereading these, I've been marking like certain chapters or scenes that I know I will go back and reread, but I don't want to reread 8 books to like get to those scenes. So I have been shortcutting them a bit for myself. And so I started the month out in October with the Scouts anthology. A bunch of authors are in this, and I only read 2 stories out of there. I read Penelope Douglas's, which was the whole reason that I even like read this at all. And then I can't remember what the second one was called, but it's by, I think it's pronounced Masha Stone. I've never read anything from that author before, but someone, thank God, in one of the Facebook groups had like posted a little synopsis of all of the stories in there. And that one kind of like caught my eye. So I did read that one as well when I was kind of just in the mood for something like shorter. And I gave, so Ash City is Penelope Douglas's, and I can't remember what the other one was, but I gave them both 4 stars. But I'm going to more talk about Penelope Douglas's Ash City. This was so good. If you know me, you know that I don't like novellas. I don't like short stories. I just don't like that they feel rushed to me. And especially in romance, I feel like I need like that buildup. I need that angst. I need that tension. And with a lot of these, you don't get any of that because it's like on a much quicker timeline. Like I love a slow burn. I love a slow burn romance. This though was just phenomenal. The setting of it with like the city on fire was just so cool. Like it added this heightened sense of like pressure to the whole situation that it like I really felt that when I was reading it. There was so much extra tension added. The characters themselves, like the backstory that was woven into them and the tension in the scene, like in the short amount of time, I think it was only 4 chapters, and the tension that was built up between the 2 of them in that short amount of time was great. So it's about this one woman who she's living in this new city and she kind of started over her life there, and she gets a call one night, like there's a fire going on, like wildfires burning outside, and she gets a call from her ex-boyfriend who is now dating, or he's married to her sister, but she's like completely cut, like her sister and her don't really talk anymore because of that whole situation. And she and this ex-boyfriend like don't have communication because this ex-boyfriend is a piece of shit, as you see. But he calls her and he's like, I need you to let me into your apartment right now. He's a bounty hunter, and him and his friend show up and they bring in this dude that they've like bounty hunted. I don't know, that they've like caught. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna call the FBI and have him come pick him up. But they needed to like get into her apartment for some reason. And it just like, there's a lot of tensions, a lot of histories, a lot of like, there's a lot of different things with the different relationships with the people in the room. But when they show up with the bounty guy, she's like, I think I know him, and she does. So I don't really want to give too much away because there is like decent amount of plot in this short amount of time. Sorry also if you can hear anything in the background. I can hear the cats in my laundry room right now climbing around on the washer and dryer and like making a bunch of noise. It is what it is. And then the other one, I'm trying to remember, was it about a girl? She was like kidnapped. It's dark. I mean, Ash City was kind of dark too. And she's like kidnapped by this guy, and he like trains women to then sell them, and he's like doing it because he's like a vet and he needs to pay off his bills or something. Like, of course he's like a good guy, but like doing bad things. Or like, is he even a good guy? I don't know. It was kind of twisted, really dark and fun, and like, again, well done in a short amount of time. I read so many like favorite books this month, like really, really good ones, and this is one of them, Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. Oh my God. I had read The Dare for my last Banned, Forbidden, and Taboo reading vlog, and I loved that. I thought it was such a fun time. I loved the writing, loved the characters. So when I saw that this was out by the same author, I was like, well, I definitely want to check that out. And then I didn't really even know much about the premise going into it. And then when I like had read that it's about like a demon and like a demon hunter, like ghost hunter kind of, oh, was I sold. I've never read anything like this before, and it was so fun. This one follows Leon and Ray returns to her childhood. What the fuck was that? They are so irritating sometimes. You know that? Yeah, but you're cute. What was I even saying? Ray returns to her hometown to start going to college, and her dad is like pretty uneasy about her going there, but they don't really have much say. They're headed to like Europe or something to move. Her parents are. So Ray moves back to this hometown. When Ray arrives though, the thing that I love about this book was like the setting. Like, it was so atmospheric. It like felt spooky. It felt like gloomy and foggy and rainy and creepy. The exposition of it was just done so well. And when Ray's there, she starts attending college, where she meets up with one of her like old childhood friends, I think. She was like a childhood friend or something. But she also meets a security guard on campus named Leon. And immediately she's like, something is like different with this dude. She starts to uncover that there are some like mysteries in this town. There's like a history of cults, sacrifices, and there was recently a murder on campus that people are like really curious about right now, which then Ray becomes like curious about. Anyways, she accidentally ends up summoning the demon. And you know, I feel like I'm explaining it so badly, and honestly I think it's because like the fucking cats have just thrown me off here, and I can still hear them like playing and knocking shit over in there. But anyways, this was so good. I want this book tattooed on my eyelids so I never have to leave it. I loved Ray, I loved Leon, I loved their connection. Super kinky, super spicy, dark a little bit. I love the cults, I love the demons, I love the like creepy atmosphere, and the two characters, or there were a lot of other characters involved. However, there were two that are going to be in the next book, but then there were like these two other characters where I don't want to say really like who they are, but I think they're getting the third book. And I am intrigued by them. I'm intrigued by all parties, but the third couple that I'm pretty sure is gonna be the third book, I want right now. So anyways, I know the second one just came out. I will be reading that this month, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this, and I gave this 5 stars. The cat's always gotta mess up my concentration. So next in my line of like spookier reads that I was reading, I read Sacrifice and Air by Katie Robert. It's the first 2 books in her Bloodline Vampire series. The third book isn't out yet. Sacrifice is book 1. So this one follows, what is her name? Again, I can't remember her name, and again, I'm so sorry, I'm not gonna look it up, but it's about this woman who her father is like a head vampire or something, and then he sells her to Malachi, one of the 7 bloodline vampires. He sells her to him to basically like have his children and continue his bloodline. And she shows up there, you know, and she's half vampire, half human, I think. So she doesn't really have any powers like vampires have. So she's kind of like a bit of like damsel in distress. So anyway, she shows up at Malachi's, and immediately they get right down to business. Because in this world, when a vampire like bites you, or like vampires bite each other, they get off. Like, for real. That's the premise. So she shows up to Malachi's basically to like be his baby mama. And then he has some other friends that come over, these 2 other friends, Wolf and Rylan, I think is the other one, again, 2 other of the bloodline vampires, and then the 4 of them, it is a reverse harem, and they realize that they all kind of have these bonds together. The men are also like all have histories with each other, so that's fun because we love some like interaction with them as well. And this one was just a lot of fun, and it's just a lot of setup of like kind of getting to know the world. I gave this one 4 stars. It was just thoroughly enjoyable. And then the second book, Air, I didn't really like this one as much. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It just kind of lost all of the like magic and fun of the first one. And like there wasn't really much for plot in it either. In this one, they're like on the run, and I never felt any sense of urgency. I never felt any sense of danger for them. I just wasn't as invested in the second one. And honestly, I don't think I will read the third. I mean, maybe it comes out in December. Maybe I'll read it at some point. But honestly, I think the first one was just like a fun vampire time. And this one, it just, I think I was kind of past that point in this one. So I don't know. They were good. If you're looking for a vampire reverse harem that are super spicy, I mean, look no further. Okay, I know I got you guys with the stopover, and now I'm gonna hit you with this one because I know, again, it's been so popular. And I did not like it. I did like it. I liked it way more than the stopover. And that's Hooked by Emily Mcintyre. I did like this, but I don't think, for me personally, I didn't love it. I think I gave it maybe 3.5 stars, but I think I rounded down to 3 on Goodreads. I'm not 100% on that. Maybe I did end up rounding up. Maybe I rounded down. I don't know, like 3.5 stars. It was fine. I'd recommend it to you, but is it going to be anything memorable or special or something that I'm gonna like repeatedly talk about again or buy? No. This one is a dark Peter Pan mafia retelling, like very loose Peter Pan retelling, and it's between like Wendy and Hook. So Hook is this powerful mafia man in the city. Of course, he has a tragic past with his parents, and he's got some beef with Peter. And Peter has a daughter, Wendy, and Hook is like, how am I gonna get revenge on Peter? I'm gonna get to his daughter. So he, you know, inserts himself into Wendy's life. Or I think actually she walks into his club one night and he spots her and he's like, that's Wendy. That's Wendy, whatever her last name is, Peter's daughter. And they start, you know, they strike up a conversation, and he basically starts trying to like lure Wendy in. And Wendy is like an unsuspecting, is she in college student, and she works at the coffee shop though, and then Hook starts coming in there and like asks her out on dates, and they start a romance. Blah, 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 things go on, plot things happen, you know how it goes. With this one, here's the thing, it was way too insta-lovey for me. Hook was fine, like I did like his character, but I just think the two of them together, it was just kind of like fine. I thought Wendy was like a little bland, but again, she was like passable enough. I thought it just was slow going for me plot wise, but like fast going romance wise, if that makes sense. And about halfway through though, here's where it got interesting for me. Hook has some things happen to him in business and in personal life that then tie over to actions that he takes out against Wendy. And then Wendy's like, who am I in love with kind of thing. And then they have like this whole new dynamic to their relationship, and Wendy is finally like, her eyes are opening a bit to like the man that Hook is and like the man her father is. And that's when it was fun. And the ending, like the escalation of the events, was all great. So I'd say like the last half of the book I really enjoyed. The first half fell kind of flat for me. If you love like mafia, millionaires, bad guy, good girl kind of vibes, I mean, this has all those great things. And I love a good retelling. And especially I love a good retelling with a villain. So overall, I enjoyed it, but like I said, it's not gonna be like a favorite of mine. This next one, I still don't even know how to talk about it. Satan's Affair by H.G. Carlton. So I read this, and I'll talk about Haunting Adeline next then by H.G. Carlton. So I read both of these this month, but I was told to read Satan's Affairs first and then read Haunting Adeline, which this was like the main draw for me. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll get around to this too. And so this one is about like a spooky, twisted, dark circus that goes traveling around the country, and it features Sibby, who, this is like all from her POV, and she runs this dollhouse there, her and her henchmen, and she can smell the evil on people, or she believes that she can smell the evil on people. So she, when they come through her like haunted dollhouse in this attraction circus place, she and her henchmen get these people and kill them. Very graphic, very gory, like I would say like horror, like Saw level to me. So here's the thing, I didn't even rate this on Goodreads, and still truly honestly, like I don't know how I would rate this, because here's my thing here. It reminded me right off the bat, like in Sibby herself, and the gore and the murder and the blood and like the graphicness of this reminded me of R.I.P. by Charity B, and I just got like flashbacks from that because that book was so much. Like, I did not enjoy that book. That was in my other Banned, Forbidden, and Taboo reading vlog recently, and I didn't like that book, and I was getting very similar vibes, and I was like, oh no. Like, it was honestly making me kind of sick. I don't love gore, and I don't love really graphic and descriptive killing, and there was a lot of blood, and then her and her henchmen are like getting it on in the blood of the people that they kill, and that just, it's not my kind of thing. So for this, personally, I didn't enjoy that first half of this. However, then in the second half, there is this man named Zaid that shows up, and he's hunting these men through the dollhouse as well, and him and Sibby team up, and that part was so good. I loved seeing her interact with Zaid. And I really liked their connection in the dollhouse. Like, she's a little crazy. And I did really like her character, and I liked her background. And at the end, the little like plot twist, I was like, I need more. So I loved the back half of this, but the front half like disgusted me so much. Really interested in Sibby, and I hope that she does get a whole book to herself because I would be very interested in seeing that. However, just like gore for me is never going to be something that I'm gonna love in books. So, I mean, that was my drawback in this one, but it wasn't bad by any means. So that's why on Goodreads, I'm like, I don't know how to rate this because like my enjoyment of it was so split. And also I rate more on enjoyment than like quality. And I'm like, I don't even know how much I enjoyed this book. So whatever. It was fine. I definitely think it is worth it reading it before Haunting Adeline, if you can stomach it. It's a lot. And then for Haunting Adeline by H.G. Carlton. So this is a stalker romance, again dark. Check your triggers on this, but it was fun. And it follows Adeline, Addie, who recently moves into her it's like her family's manor, but it most recently was like her grandmother's house, and her grandmother passed away, and she then passed down the manor to Addie, so she begins staying there, and Addie's a writer, so she can kind of work wherever, and she moves into this manor. And again, like the setting of it was so great, like the descriptions of the manor, like it just felt so in line with spooky season and really gave a great setting for this story. And as she's living there, she starts hearing like some sounds in the middle of the night, and she thinks someone's breaking into her house, but the locks aren't like picked or anything. And then she starts finding roses places, and then she eventually sees a man watching her from outside her house. And so it was a little creepy. So at times I didn't read this book at night because I always think I'm about to be true crime. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. One of the main reasons, it is so fucking long. It is ridiculously long in my opinion. This is 650 pages and it's part 1 of a duet. And when you make Queen of Shadows 650 pages, that's fine. It's a fantasy book. It's got like 10 characters we're following here, and it's the 4th book in a series. But for 650 pages from 2 characters, it was just, I felt honestly excessive. It was slow going in the beginning for me. I was really, it was like, I was on the 250 page mark, and they had maybe interacted once, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, can we just get somewhere, please? The thing that I will say is that with it being so long, the tension that was built between Addie and her stalker, the tension was there, so then I was like literally interact, like I was about to throw this book. So I mean, it gets to that point and where the tension is so high, so it does a great job of that. Like, you're definitely like really anticipating them finally interacting, finally realizing like what this stalker's deal is, but it took too much time in my opinion. However, then I reached about the 400 mark. I couldn't stop after that. The stalker's business deal, which I don't know, can I say? I don't know. His name isn't revealed for a while, so I guess I won't really say it, but his business dealings are so fascinating. So I really liked that as we got more into the thick of his business and what he does. And then as well, at the same time, Addie is trying to solve her great-grandmother's murder, who was murdered in this manner. So at the same time with those 2 things going on, as we're finally getting answers and we're getting traction on both of those plots, fantastic. I was warned that this was bad cliffhanger, but I kind of feel like in romance books, I'm like, well, you kind of know what's gonna happen at the end. Like, so cliffhangers for me, it's kind of like The Bison I Rise part 1. I'm like, that's not really even a cliffhanger, because I'm like, you know, this dude's gonna show back up and they're gonna be fine. This cliffhanger, This shit is gonna be brutal waiting for the next one. There's not even a release date for it. I need it right now. This is gonna be a horrible wait because the cliffhanger for like everyone involved in this story is just, oh my God, it's too much for me. So yeah, I did really thoroughly enjoy this, but literally my biggest critique is that it's so long and so like slow going in the beginning. But I did really enjoy it. Now let's talk about my favorite book I read this month, which if you follow me on Instagram, it's no surprise, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. Oh, this isn't my bookmark. It's just like my little Amazon note because Sonia sent me this book, so I just like keep those tucked in there. If I could give a book 10 stars, I would give this book 10 stars. I literally loved every single moment of this book. I have zilch, no complaints about this book. I think that this book is perfect. This follows Olive, who is I think a third-year PhD student, and she's on campus one night, and she has recently been out on a date with this one dude, Jeremy, and it was like fine, whatever, but she wasn't really into him. And now her friend, though, is interested in Jeremy. So she wants to like prove to her friend that it's like, fine, I really don't want this man, but Anne's not like really buying it. So then to convince Anne to go out with Jeremy and like not feel guilty about it, she kisses the first man that she sees, and that happens to be Dr. Adam Carlton, the like widely known asshole at this school. And yeah, no, it's a fake dating student teacher kind of. He's not like her, is it like advisor? Like she has nothing to do with him at all, but they're just like at the same college in like different departments, but they're both scientists. I loved the academia setting of this. It's just so vastly different from anything that I could ever imagine because I did my 4 years in college and I'm like, I am done. School has never been my thing. I've never been that great at school, but I did really like the academic setting in here and how much Olive like loved learning and loved science and had a passion for her project. I really loved seeing that, and I loved that her and Adam had that love of science and that love of learning to bond over on top of other things. So yeah, they begin fake dating after this. So Olive knows what she's getting out of it, that she's proving to her friends that like they can go and be happy together and that she's happy on her own. And Adam has his own things that he's getting out of the arrangement. However, we don't know what those are until later, so I'm not gonna let you know on those. This book is so hyped on TikTok, which I don't trust. I just don't trust. Especially it's traditionally published. I was not going to pick this book up until I saw that it is Reylo fan fiction. And if you know me, I love Star Wars. And you know what I love more than Star Wars? Adam Driver. I've been an Adam Driver stan since Girls, and I've been on a journey with that man. So when I knew that I could picture this whole book with him in my head, I needed to have it. I needed to read it. And I'm so glad that I did. It's a traditionally published book, which normally is not my deal. I really love indie books. However, this like blew everything out of the water. I genuinely can't say enough good things about it. The connection between Olive and Adam was undeniable. There was never a moment where either of them like annoyed me or got on my nerves with like the fake dating thing. They were angels. This book was perfect. I have zero complaints. And if you haven't read this book yet and you're scared of the hype, I understand. But trust me, it's worth it. Or don't trust me. Honestly, it's fine. You read whatever you want to read. But I'm just saying, this book, 10 stars. Then I read Bad Boys Break Hearts by Macaulay Smelter. This is the first book in the Boys series. This has been on my TBR for so freaking long, like literally since this came out. Because if y'all know, you know how much I love Sweet Dandelion. I am a Sweet Dandelion hype account here, and I wanted to read more about Macaulay Smelter. So this is a new adult, college, sports, childhood friends to enemies to lovers romance. So this one follows Mason and Rory starts attending this, it's like her freshman year of college. She moves somewhere, and she's trying to get away from her mom. She has a really bad home life, which we find out over time. And she arrives at school. Her and her roommates go out one night, like the first week of school, and they start seeing some people out at the bar, and she meets this guy Cole, who's like a really nice guy. I can't wait to read the second book because it's Cole's book, and Cole is my favorite character to come out of this book. And she meets this guy and they go home. However, they don't end up hooking up. They just like have a make out. She stays over at his place, and then the next morning as Rory is leaving, she walks out into the hallway, and guess who is standing there? Mason, her childhood best friend, who now is a complete and utter asshole. So they have a little interaction, and they're both like, okay, fuck you to each other, and they basically walk away. But you know, they're never just gonna leave things be. And it's their romance. It is like kind of bully-ish. I would just say Mason's a dick, but Rory can take it and Rory can throw it back, so that's what I really liked about it. And as we go along, we kind of learn like why Rory moved away and why Mason like holds that against her. I'm like, she's an actual child. She doesn't have any control over where she lives, but pop off, dude. Here's the thing about this. When I started this book, I was loving it up until about like the 30% mark when I became really disconnected with Mason's character. And I just got like sick of him. Like he's so annoying to me. I don't know. I found Mason really annoying. I loved Rory and I liked her character pretty much all the way through, but I did just feel like a disconnect with them. And I don't know why that happened, to be honest. I don't know if it's because I stepped away for a little bit from it to read other books, but I just did. And there were some moments that kind of took me out of the story. Like I know I talked about this in my weekly reading vlog where I talked about this book a bit, and they went to like an ice cream parlor and they had an ice cream food fight. And it was just kind of like, what? Like, you're adults. I don't know. And again, like not everything has to be realistic, but I don't know. That kind of took me out. It just seemed a little like odd to me. Overall, I did like this book. However, I just didn't love Mason and Rory. And for me to connect with a romance, I need to like love those two characters and connect with those two characters, where when I felt that disconnect with them, it kind of did taint my like overall enjoyment of the book. Cole was my shining star in this book, and I cannot wait to read his because his is the next book and I'm really excited for it. I think it's like a coach's daughter's romance. I just think Cole is like a stand-up guy, so I'm very excited to read his and not about whiny Mason. But anyways, I did end up giving this 4 out of 5 stars because overall I did still enjoy it. It's just when I felt that disconnect with the characters for me, like then I couldn't really like fully invest myself back in the story, if that makes sense. Okay, we're down to our final 2. So this one I have here. So next I read Stroke of Midnight by Kay Webster. So it's the first book in the Skyscraper Cinderella trilogy. So I have like the collection, so all 3 of them are in this one, and now I'm reading Prince Charming, which is book 2. I had said in my first Banned, Forbidden, Taboo reading vlog, I read The Wilde by Kay Webster, and I said in that, I did not like that book. However, I said in there, I'm like, it's not Kay Webster's writing, it was the story. I'm like, I think I like this author's writing and I want to try more from her because I did like the writing in it. I just hated the story. And I was correct because I loved this book. So Stroke of Midnight, and I ended up giving 4 stars. It is a Cinderella retelling. So this one follows Ash, who she is like 18. She's cleaning for this company because her dad drained her college savings account to marry this like rich doctor and like impress her. And like, of course, like the stepmom, she's like typical stepmom, and she has triplet sons who them and Ash do not get along. These stepsons are garbage. Ash starts cleaning with this company, and one of the buildings that she cleans is the like Hallicon building, which is downtown, like a really bougie business building, and it is owned and run by Winston. What is it? Winston Constantine is his name, and it's run by like him and his family. And Winston is like a billionaire. Him and his family run the town. They run things. And one morning he walks into his office and noticed like a candy wrapper, and he's immediately outraged. He's like, who would dare make a mess in here? And then he looks at the tape and he sees Ash just like fucking around in his office. So then the next day he calls up the cleaning company. He's like, you need to get this woman into my office. And immediately when he shows up, he's like, oh. It is like a little insta-lovey. I mean, not insta-love. It's like insta-lust, which normally I don't like. But in this, there's something about Winston and Ash that I was just invested in. And he's like, you're going to be fired from this cleaning job. However, I will hire you for other services. And no, not for sex. He just wants to pay her for him to humiliate her. So there's a lot of like humiliation and degradation kink? Is that degrading? I don't know. There's a lot of that in here. It's like Cinderella, but make it dirty. And Winston obviously is a billionaire, so he's just throwing like thousands of dollars. Anyways, him and Ash start like a little arrangement like that, but over time, you know, their relationship kind of changes a little bit. And this first book leaves off on a bit of a cliffhanger the night before Winston's birthday party, which is like a really bougie birthday party. Of course, Ash is like all dressed up and ready to go. However, there are some people that are causing some problems. There are a lot of different players in this, which is why I'm excited to read the next books. Because we have the stepmom, we have the triplets, and we have the warring families that like Winston and his business don't get along with. Is it like the Moriellis or something are like rivals? And the interesting thing about this is that it's one like family in this world, but there are a lot of siblings, and it's like spread among other authors. So like Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin, Tinsley is Winston's younger sister. And I just got this trilogy in the mail from Jade West. It's like Solace is the first book maybe, and that is like the rival. So it's like this whole big world that other authors have wrote these books for these different characters. So I want to try to get through all of them, because so far everything that I've read, and actually I think Dangerous Temptation by Gianna Darling is in this world too, I want to say. So this was so good. It was super dirty, super kinky, super fun, and I'm reading book 2 right now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Okay, and last book that I read, again, another 5-star read for me, was Crash Course by Alyssa Wilde. I have never read anything by Alyssa Wilde before, and I'm pretty sure this was her debut novel, and I actually don't think she has anything else now. I think this is like her one and only so far. So this one is a student teacher book, and this one follows Arden, who one night, so the first like right at the beginning of this book, we get this night where Arden has run away from home. We don't really know the circumstances why. She's in her car, and then she realizes she needs to stop and get gas. So she pulls into this gas station, realizes that she doesn't have her wallet, and she's like, oh shit, how am I gonna pay for gas? And this nice gentleman there pays for her gas, and she gets back on the road, but she's like, where do I have to go? She's like, I don't have anyone. At home, it's her mom and her mom's boyfriend. She doesn't have a dad. She doesn't really have friends. She doesn't really have anyone to turn to. As she starts driving though, her life is completely flipped upside down when she is hit by a drunk driver, and then she's almost like flipped off of a bridge. So when the accident happens, then this man comes upon the crime scene, pulls her out of the car, and saves her life. He's like been in her nightmares ever since, because she like replays that incident in her head over and over. It's been a year of like healing kind of, and treatments, and getting back up on her feet. So she finally returns to school to start her senior year, and now she is 19 at this point. And when she's in the hallway on the first day, she spots the man that shows up in her nightmares every single night, Henry, or better known as Mr. Ames, her new creative writing teacher. So Henry is the one who pulled her out of the accident and saved her life. Now he's also her new teacher. And at this point, Arden just has a very hard life. Her mom is not around. She's living on her own, which granted she's 19, so like technically that's not illegal, but still she's like in high school. She's still just a kid, and she has a lot of trauma that she's been working through, and she's been having to like do it on her own. I don't really want to get any more into it. I will say that if you like Colleen Hoover's book, how Colleen Hoover's books have like a bit of a twist in them, this definitely had that. It's a very slow burn relationship. For being student teacher, personally, I mean, that's my favorite trope, but personally, I didn't feel like this one was like that taboo, because they had this previous connection where, granted, they didn't really like interact much that night, but they have this moment that they shared together, and this shared experience of this traumatic night. When I started this book, I was like immediately into it, and dare I say that it very much reminded me of one of my favorite books, Sweet Dandelion. In terms of Arden and Danny, like they're both very like broken, sad characters dealing with just like a lot. And obviously their circumstances are very different, their home circumstances are very different, but just in terms of like the two of them and like having this really traumatic event happen so young that they're trying to work through, and that they're like both 19 finishing their senior year, like they're back and they're kind of like disconnected from their peers, it gave very similar vibes. And then how Lachlan helps Danny through her trauma, Henry helps Arden through hers, and like she starts to like do some writing assignments in his class that really like dig deep into that night and those events. And it just gave me like very similar vibes, which you know that I was eating up. Was this book perfect? No, but I don't care. It was 5 stars for me. I so thoroughly enjoyed it. I shed a tear. The journey between Henry and Arden, and I just thought that their like connection, it really was just like, this is fate. Like these two characters are supposed to be together. I bought them together. I loved their connection. I loved their like, just their interactions were so pure, and oh my God, I loved this book so much, and I would 10 out of 10 recommend it. It doesn't have a ton of reviews on Goodreads, so like please go check this book out. It was just incredible. If you're not a huge fan of student teacher because of like the tabooness, I promise this one really isn't that much. She's 19 and he's like 25 or 26, so even like the age gap is small there. And yeah, I couldn't deny that these two characters deserve to be together, so I loved this, and it was just a great way to wrap out my month. Okay, so that's everything that I read in October. My next video, I am gonna actually start doing some TBR videos, because I love that Riley Marie does hers where then like she looks back at them like the previous year and like sees what she read and didn't read, and then we'll like vlog reading what she didn't read on her old TBR, because there are so many books that I'm like, oh, I screenshot and I'm like, I really want to get around to that, and then I put it on my list and then I just like forget that it was ever there, and I forget that I ever wanted to read it. So I want to start doing TBRs, even though I don't normally stick to them as a mood reader. But there are certain ones like Bad Boys Break Hearts was always on my radar. I just never got around to it. So I'm gonna do TBR videos moving forward. So I'm gonna have my November TBR video up next. And yeah, thank you for watching. That's it for this one, and I will see you when I see ya.